Uh, one of the things that I do want to do while I'm down here is I would like to teach a little
There you
bit.
go.
There is a large university in town, New Mexico State University, and I figured once I get settled and things stop moving around, I'll make my way over to the business school and introduce myself and see if I can do some mentorship. I certainly I did this when I was in Milwaukee at Marquette University. I did this. My son went to Ithaca College in upstate New York, and I helped. He was on the football team, and I had members of the football team get jobs afterwards. I connected them with people I knew in the industry.
Welcome to Your Next Big Project is You, a podcast based around the theme of time. Time to be able to press pause on life. Time to reevaluate what's important. Time to reminisce about where you've come from, what you've learned, and what you've accomplished. Time to revisit your goals, dreams, and vision. And time to remember the people in your life. That's it, my friends. If you've got time, fasten your seatbelt and listen in as we discuss opportunities for the next 5 to 25 years of your life. And remember, your next big project is you. Welcome to our podcast. Your next big project is you. What a pleasure today. When I think back of my career, really my first client. When I think back about this after a speaking engagement, when I met my good friend Barry Mendelson, 1992, we're aging ourselves here, Barry. But I know I've known Barry for years, mostly in our discussions of really being an amazing husband and father and an entrepreneur. He started his business and years ago when life brought us together. Barry, I'm so excited to have you here to talk to you today.
Thanks. It's always great to see you. It's always great to talk with you, Leo. This because you're never enthusiastic enough.
I probably should have a passion meter behind the wall here or something. Just
Yeah,
shows up when we
yeah.
talk and things like that. But it's just
Oh, that's right.
when you love what you do, as I know you exemplify that as well in your life, in many different facets of love in your life. As I said, from family to business to just the things that you're working on these days. I thought a good place to start for us is really the journey. My gosh, as I said, I've known you now for over 3 decades. And that's the beauty of this is when you meet somebody, when you emotionally and logically connect as we have over the years of stayed in touch and, how's your career going? How's your family? What's going on? Tell me what's up. You're one of those guys that I've always seen that jumped in the entrepreneurial pool. You maybe got the push from your wife at a certain point, and I thought it'd be a good place to start with you was just really the journey. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your journey, Barry? We'll start there.
Sure. I've been in the financial services business about, gosh, it's over 40 years. I never would have thought way back when I would ever say I've been in the business for 40 years, but I have been in the business 40 years. When I started, the Dow was at 780 and
Wow.
interest rates were 15%, and you could get 17% on a money market fund. And I remember clients calling saying, "Is that safe? Is that safe?" So back in those days, when I started as a financial advisor, and I spent 10 years as a financial advisor, after leaving the chiropractic profession, I was not nothing against chiropractic or really healthcare in general, but it just didn't suit me once I got in there and got my feet wet. I was interested in something, a world that was maybe quieter and more analytical and less day-to-day interaction with people and sort of selling constantly. And the result of that was that I went back to school. I got my SEMA at the Wharton School and sort of started my career all over again at what was Kemper Securities back in, gosh, what was that, 1992 or 1993?
Yeah.
I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly.
92,
Whenever
we
that
met.
was. Not we met in 92,
Yeah.
and I was there for a few years, and then went to a firm that was called First of Michigan and had a broader set of responsibilities. That firm was ultimately sold. I moved back to Chicago, the Chicago area from Detroit. We love Detroit, by the way, because my wife is from Detroit, and so um, we moved back to Chicago, and I changed my direction a little bit and did pension consulting for a while, and then ultimately, as you know, started my own business. And in 1990, really, it was in 1998 I started thinking about it, um, and ultimately concluded after a short stint at Robert Baird that working in a larger corporation, and for me, it felt like 30% of my time was spent sort of what I refer to as feeding the beast. And again, nothing, no criticism of corporate America, because look, corporations that have lasted decades and even centuries, there's something to be said about what they're doing, but it wasn't for me. And so I started my own firm in 2003, June of 2003, June 14th of 2003, and it been over years. And we took the collective experience that that I had developed over time from the early 90s and brought it to this new company mine.
Yeah. You know, I was smiling inside when you were talking about the good old days with those 17% money market rates you were saying, and things. Wondered if it was safe. I was thinking about many of the clients who would say, Barry, can you give me more? Are there any better options where I can make even more money back then? And the other thing that the other thing that stood out to me was how people who leave the corporate world start their entrepreneurial venture. How you were so precise. June 14th, 2003. I mean, those are days that we don't forget when you take the plunge, right? May 27th, 1992 for me. They're part of the, become like an imaginary tattoo in our system and things. What was the tipping point for you, buddy? You had all these experiences. You're comfortable. You're feeding the beast 30% of your time. What the heck was the tipping point?
The tipping point was that I felt I was wasting time.
Wow. Say more to that one.
What was that again?
I said, say more. Yeah, I want to hear more about that.
I just felt that that 30% of my time was spent in meetings and attending meetings and making and finding out who could be in a meeting, rather than actually doing things and getting my fingernails dirty and solving problems and advancing a cause. And I wanted to cross the bridge, not contemplate whether the bridge could support me. I wanted to get to the field on the other side, and you could see I could see that there were people, potential clients on the other side of the bridge, who were asking for help, and I'm sitting here. I'm sitting in a big corporation, waiting for someone to give me approval to do something, and as a matter of fact, one of the tipping points was, I'm not sure that I ever told you this. I was working at this large corporation, and I was running their managed account business. And we had two companies come to us, and they saw what I, along with my colleagues, had built. And they asked me, would you guys be willing to private label this for us? We love what you're doing, but we would like to have it look, be our brand. And the company I work for said, absolutely not. We have no interest in that. But the light bulb had already gone on in my mind. And I said, this could be privately branded for anybody. There's nothing magical about this, at least to me, after doing it for 10 or 15 years. At that point, it was just a matter of, to me, it's putting one foot in front of the other, and you got a blue logo instead of a red logo, and it's portrait instead of landscape, and they just didn't want that, and that's seemed to me. In fact, I went to a meeting. I can't use the names of the companies, but I went to a meeting about this private branding, and along with a bunch of my colleagues from the company I was working for, I came back, and a few of us that were sort of close to each other were sitting in a conference room doing a post-mortem after that meeting. And one of the guys said, God, with a company that big, who needs the company we're working for?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I got it. I got it. And that was really sort of that's what kickstarted my thinking about going it alone.
Why is it that sometimes the people that we are serving as clients see our value, recognize it, and it turns this light bulb on for us when our own employers don't see it at the time. To say, hey Barry, this is something we got to figure out. If it ain't broke, let's break it. Where they've got a mindset of listening to clients and realizing they can serve at a higher level. But those clients literally open up the door for entrepreneurs when they say, we're looking to do this. This is all we want to do. But sometimes our
Right.
employers, or the beast, so to speak, are happy with the way things are going, and God bless them. They run phenomenal companies. The far majority of people we've been privileged to work with and serve over the years, but opens up these opportunities for guys like you and I to see that we can serve people in a different way. It sounds like that's what happened to
That's
you as
right.
well.
Well, that's right. And then another phenomenon that happened along the way, and this would have been a few years before the story I just told you. Uh, it was in the mid 90s. All of what at the time were the big eight accounting firms registered as investment advisors. And a light bulb went on in my mind, and I said, why are accountants and why are accountants and auditors? Why are they becoming investment advisors? And of course, they got into the wealth management business, and really two things sort of uh, further stimulated my thought, which was that the idea of um, what at the time was a sort of a multi-manager, multi-asset class style of investing, which was really the province of large pension funds between Schwab One Source and the accounting firms registering investment advisors. The light bulb went on in my mind, and I said, you know what? What was once the province of pension funds, it's going to go mainstream and it's going to go retail. And that's, of course, exactly what happened. And then, of course, the advent of the microprocessor allowed small firms, entrepreneurial firms, to get all kinds of data and have all kinds of analytics. And you didn't have to have 60 analysts piled up doing all that stuff, because you could buy the software. You could license the software. So between getting all the software and sort of open architecture investing going mainstream, besides spending 30% of your time feeding the beast in a large corporation, I said, I can get all the stuff I need, all the data, and the clients are going to be there because everyone's going to be embracing wealth management and multi-asset class, multi-manager investing. So why not make a business out of that? And those were sort of the building blocks in my thinking that got me to launch my own firm in 2003.
Wow. And I'm sure with a little push from Susan, your wife,
Well,
realizing like if you've got this type of client that wants to work with you, well, then
yeah.
maybe this is the push you need, not just the opportunity from that client, but knowing that I'm supportive of you and we'll be there to help you through this transition to the
Well,
entrepreneurial opportunity, right?
you are absolutely right. In fact, um, as I landed my first big account, which was a brand name broker dealer um, in the Midwest, and the mission was to rebuild their managed account platform, to retrofit the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, I realized I could not do it alone, and so I needed employees. I needed more hands. But I was timid at first. I said,
Yeah.
I'm taking on responsibility for other families' financial well-being. I'm not sure I want to do that. I'm not sure I'm up to that task. And my wife said to me, she basically gave me we had a talk in the kitchen, and she gave me a kick in the ass and I said, what are you doing? You know what you're doing. Go on and get it. I'll be right here by you. And so she's been by my side from the very beginning, and was the person that gave me the kick to rent an office, get office space, hire people, because of this one large client, and the rest is history.
Yeah. It's amazing when you think back of the role our spouses play, significant others, to others, whatever their situations might be, that allowed us to do what we have done many, many years later. So 21 years in counting for you, my friend. I'm curious, as a entrepreneur, as a business owner, founder of a state-of-the-art wealth management practice, or supporting the wealth management businesses, pension plans, whatever, in many different capacities of things that you do. What were some of the key lessons, thinking back, if you were going to a local university and speaking to a group of students about becoming an entrepreneur, about some of the things when you rewind your career since you started your firm June 14th, 2003? What are some of the things you would share with them?
Um, I think there are a few things that I'd say. One thing is, for those who are old enough to remember the movie City Slickers with Billy Crystal. Do you remember he says to Jack Palance says to him, just one thing. And I think that's, whatever business you're going to start, it needs to have a kernel of an idea. That may blossom to other things, but there has to be a kernel of truth that is sort of universal, and you believe in passionately, and you're willing to sort of live and die with it. You know it to be true, you know it to be precise, and you don't need to go any farther than that one truth. That's number one. And everything you do from that point on should be dedicated to serving the cause of bringing that one thing to life. I said to you in a previous conversation, one of the people that I admired in the industry, and was actually my boss at one of the large corporations I worked for. Uh, um, when I started my company, for a period of time, he said, "Why don't you check in with me every few months, and let me see how you're doing." So I did, and I would go to his office. And I remember the first meeting we had, I was probably 3 or 4 months into starting my company. And I think he ordered lunch in, and we're sitting there talking, and he said, um, so you're now at this, several months. What's the hardest thing? What's the hardest thing you're doing? What's the hardest thing? And I wasn't quite ready for the question. And so I actually paused for a while. And then I finally said to him, the hardest thing is prioritizing. There are so many things to do. Um, it's hard to know where to begin. And so I used, uh, prior to talking with him, I had developed my own little way of taking this list of to-dos, which was, as long as your arm, as long as my arm. And I broke it down into 3 different buckets. Prioritizing has not only to do with what's really important and what's less important, but it has to do with how you're going to allocate your time and how long it takes to do things. And so what I did was, every week on Sunday, I would spend an hour or two quietly early in the morning before the family got up. And what I did was, I took this bucket and I broke the list into 3 buckets. One bucket was called mission critical. Those were things I had to do this week. I could block everything else out. I didn't have to think about anything else. I was only going to work on these things that I wanted to complete, or I wanted to have substantially completed by the end of the week. Then I had another bucket, which was called important. That might be important 2 weeks from now, or 3 weeks from now, or 6 weeks from now, but I could get to them at a later date, and the world wouldn't come to an end. And then the last bucket was I referred to as nice to have. Those would be things that would be, dreams. Those would be pie in the sky sort of ideas that probably involved a lot more noodling to figure out what it all meant. So that for me, when I talked about prioritizing, it was really limited to what am I going to do this week? And then I did a lot of planning around that. And then it was, what are you going to do this month? And what are you going to do this quarter? And I would set quarterly objectives and monthly objectives, and I'd give myself a grade. And every quarter, I would go on a personal retreat.
Hmm.
I'd go away for the day and I'd score myself. How did you do? What did you set out to do? What did you actually accomplish?
Well,
And then I'd set the agenda for the next quarter before the next retreat, the following retreat would occur. And then I would take the quarter's worth of work and I break it down into weeks. So I've got 12 weekly sets of activities to do. But each week, obviously, I would not plan the week's activity until that Sunday night. And then the following Sunday, I'd set the next plan. But I had the plan for the quarter. I knew what I was supposed to do over the next 90 days because I didn't have people I could hand things off to. I had to spend my time focusing on the things that really were going to make a difference, or at least
yeah.
I thought were going to make a difference.
It's not easy from listening to that. I, I love the one finger coming up. This is the one thing, and this is something you need to figure out. Well, you figured it out. You obviously figured it out, right? And
Yeah,
then the aspect of prioritization to me brings about other skills, other lessons to share with people that I forget who came up with this quote. What you focus on is what you get, right? What you focus on is what you get. I'm a big believer in that. So if I missed the owner of that quote, somebody listening to this podcast, share it with me or whatever, so we can give proper credit. But what I heard from your path to success was it required a lot of discipline. In order for you to do that Sunday mornings, to literally, and when I'm in addition to discipline, what I'm going to call self accountability of literally quarterly taking a day. That's not easy. That's not easy when you got calls coming in from work. You're trying to meet payroll. You got your wife calling you. There's a soccer game. Something's going out to school for one of the kids. Something's going on. And you think, I got to figure out how to stay balanced on all this stuff through the prioritization of mission critical to important and nice to have. That aligns to your personal life as well.
absolutely.
It's not just business
Absolutely.
mission critical, it's family mission critical to do. How'd you get through this and stay balanced through all this?
Well, I must say I wasn't always balanced, but I tried. I will say that you ask, how did you? Yes, I had discipline. I had been raised having discipline as I was a youngster. I was a competitive swimmer. I was a long distance swimmer. I swam at a pretty high level. Swam at the University of Michigan, um, and which was very competitive. And you learn, it's a solitary sport. It is a team sport, but it's a solitary sport, and you
Yeah.
learn you have to suck it up and do it yourself. And what I would say to you is, I think in part because of that upbringing, and because you have to do it yourself, the alternative to not doing the planning and not doing the retreat and not having the perspective was it would make me so uncomfortable to feel disorganized
Yeah.
and feel in chaos. The short time away that I had to squirrel away, and my wife was very supportive of it. She knew it was happening, and I planned the day, and I got away, and I rented a hotel room out of town, and I just spent the day, writing things down and looking at, what I had said I was going to do and what did I actually get done. And of course, I'm as I'm going through the quarter, I'm sort of checking things off, and so forth. But again, the The alternative to being disciplined and organized about this was to feel chaotic and out of control. And it was like I had a rash. It made me feel very uncomfortable because I knew I had so little time to accomplish this, and I didn't have hands to hand everything off to. It had to be done
Yeah.
by myself.
Well, I agree from that pedigree or that how you were in the pool and the breaststroke or
Yeah.
backstroke, all the things you're working
Butterfly.
on. I mean, it's just like another breath. Take another breath and come on, you still got a bunch of laps to go, man. Just
Right.
just just keep swimming. Keep swimming. Keep swimming, keep breathing, keep moving, get in the pool, get out of the
Yeah.
pool. I mean, there's a regimen that you had to do to compete.
Yeah.
And,
Back in the day, as was telling you earlier, uh, off season and during my high school years, I I used to swim. I used to work out with an older guy on the team who ultimately became an alternate at the Olympic Games, and we used to swim a mile butterfly every Wednesday morning at 7 o'clock. And if you swim a mile butterfly, 200 yards doesn't seem so long. So you go way beyond what you're going to be doing in competitive situations to make it seem pretty modest. So you can put
yes, yeah.
100% into 200 yards when you have to pace yourself for a mile. If you can do a mile, you certainly can do 200 yards.
Well, whether 200 yards or a mile in the pool, making two or three or five or 10 cold calls is probably pretty damn easy, considering that. I just got to sit here in my
Yeah,
office and pick up the phone and say hello to a few people and let them know what we're doing and how we're adding value to other organizations like theirs.
yeah,
I just got to pick the phone. I don't have to be doing this for,
right,
for
right, right. You know,
whatever. Are you kidding me?
right. Well, that's
Hey,
right. And
you got to
everything
send me
seems.
some of those old pictures. I haven't seen any of those old pictures.
I actually have a picture, a high school swimming team picture that one of my colleagues found on the internet somewhere. I'll
Oh,
try to find
God.
it and send it to you.
I mean, I got to see that. I got to see that. So you
Yeah,
raise a daughter, a son, amazing support from your wife.
yeah,
You've
yeah.
you've touched
I'm really,
you've touched the bases, buddy. You've done it right. You've done it
yeah,
right,
yeah.
man.
I'm
One
really
of the
so.
friends I look up to is somebody that has lived their life with integrity, lived their life with a purpose to provide an opportunity for other individuals and to bring value to people that you serve. So you're right up there in terms of the people that have made a difference in my life just from our friendship and knowing you and your support and just seeing how you are doing it in your own way in the conversations we've had literally on and off for 3 decades
30
now, staying
years.
in touch.
Yeah,
And now
yeah,
the emails to the texts we continually share and stuff, that's been cool. But so
yeah.
you move now. Let's finish on this. What the heck's next? You, from a personal standpoint, if I look at mission critical, what's important, what's nice to have, you made a big decision to one you've picked up, you've right sized, downsized, call it what you want, but you moved halfway across the country from from your status in the Milwaukee area down to New Mexico. Tell us about that decision and what's next in your life right now.
Uh, well, it was a long process of deciding um, where to relocate. I really wanted to get out of cold weather, um, but I didn't want to do it willy-nilly. I had lived in other parts of the country, and like you, I've traveled all over the country for business, so I'd seen a lot of the country. And my wife and I had a conversation about this 5 or 6 years ago, and we said, well, if we're going to relocate, let's consider everything as a possibility. Every state in the union is a possibility. And so we went through the different regions of the country, and we ultimately came to the conclusion that that the Southwest in general was was optimal for us. I have a fascination with Native American Indian culture and everything that goes with that, and so I was drawn to the Southwest. Our families had retired to the Phoenix area, so we'd been down to Phoenix over the years. My wife, almost 35 years. We've been down to Phoenix maybe 150 times for business and family. So we knew all about that, knew about Tucson. But we didn't know about Colorado, and we didn't know about Utah, and we didn't know about New Mexico. So we spent some time learning about these areas. And ultimately, we concluded that it was either going to be Arizona or New Mexico. And I came down and we spent 2 months in Tucson, and we spent a month in Albuquerque to see what it was like to live there. What does it feel like? And we ultimately concluded that New Mexico was better for us. And then the pandemic came along, and we concluded that we did most of it. We did almost all of our shopping online. So in terms of a city, did we really need, as a family, and as a couple, did we really need to live in a large city? And the answer was no. All we needed a city for was healthcare. And I'm not discounting the great healthcare in big cities. I'm just saying, but we could travel to that if we needed to or wanted to. We need a place to get our car fixed. We need a place to shop for groceries, and we need a place to get clothes dry cleaned. Everything else is going to be delivered to our door.
Yeah,
By
exactly.
Amazon or wherever. So why do we have to live in a big city? So we ultimately looked around New Mexico and chose a much smaller city of about 100,000 in southern New Mexico. We're 40 miles from the border. The weather's out of this world. It does feel, moving from the Midwest to southern New Mexico, it just feel like I've moved to another country.
Hmm.
The culture is different. The pace is different. The climate is incredibly different. Um, we've been here a little more than 2 months, um, and it's rained, drizzled once, and it's generally in the 80s and 90s. And I would say 80% of the days there are no clouds at all.
Yeah, it's just blue sky.
It's blue sky, and it's very relaxing. And I have a separate little dwelling, a little building on our property. That's my office that I'm in right now. So I'm still doing the same things I did from the standpoint of working. Uh, None of that has changed, and continue to try to improve upon our relationships, grow relationships, and add to our business. That isn't going to change. Like you, I have a business that's largely recurring revenue, and I don't want to give that up. Um, and the other thing is, I love what I do. I It's challenging. It's intellectually stimulating. I develop friendships and relationships and learn things about people and learn things about other parts of the world. And I learned, as I was thinking about retirement, or being at the tail end of a career, what do you want to do? How are you going to spend your time? I'm not a golfer. I do have some hobbies. I play the guitar. I'm probably going to do some potting. There's some things I'm going to do to expand my horizon. We're meeting friends down here, but I still have to have a core of things that gets me up in the morning that I'm really excited and passionate about. And for now, it continues to be my business, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Wow. What a great story, Barry. Um, Applaud you for jumping in the pool years ago. Applaud you for continuing to invest in your business and yourself. The changes that you continue to make. You know, where I'm focused now on helping people to live a life of significance, um, one that where you can make a difference for yourself and the life of others. Living a life of no regrets, living a life with abundance, with gratitude, with perspective, with being your best, living your legacy. Do any of those themes jump out at you right now? It feels like there's definitely no regrets, you know, with all the stuff that you're doing right now, at least in terms of your career move. But are there any of those other concepts that I'm focusing on resonate with you more than others?
Uh, One of the things that I do want to do while I'm down here is I would like to teach a little
There you
bit.
go.
There is a large university in town, New Mexico State University, and I figured once I get settled and things stop moving around, I'll make my way over to the business school and introduce myself and see if I can do some mentorship. I certainly I did this when I was in Milwaukee at Marquette University. I did this. My son went to Ithaca College in upstate New York, And I helped, he was on the football team, and I had members of the football team get jobs afterwards. I connected them with people I knew in the industry. I obviously have in the financial industry, I have a lot of connections on the East Coast, and obviously Ithaca's in upstate New York. And most of the kids who go there are from maybe a 400 or 500 mile radius around the school. So I was able to help some kids. In fact, um, 2 years ago, my son and I was vacationing with my wife in Mexico, and every year or two or three we go to the grudge match of the year football game for Ithaca College. They play SUNY New York at Cortland, and either the game is in Ithaca or the game is in Cortland, New York. But on a couple of occasions they've had these games in big stadiums. And this particular year, the game was at Yankee Stadium, and they ultimately had 47,000 people for a Division III football game. So I flew from Mexico to Newark, met my son at the airport, and we rented an Airbnb, and we had a great couple of days, and we went to the game. And after the game at Yankee Stadium, all of the Ithaca past football players, met at on a pedestrian parkway, and I'm standing there with my son, and this guy comes up and starts talking to my son, and his name is Tom, and I'm standing with my son, and Tom says to my son, "Hey, how's your old man doing?" He got me a job at Putnam, and I'm still working there and doing great. He said, "Well, that's him. He's standing next to you."
There he is, right there. The guy in the bathing suit over there at the street corner over there. That's how I'm going to be thinking of you now, buddy. Hey, listen, that concept of giving your time and your talent, and I think of a lot of entrepreneurs. I know it's in the corporate world as well, but I find a lot of guys like you that made the jump, want to help others, to answer their questions, and to see what jumps or options they should consider. It just hits me of people giving back like yourself. So I applaud you for that, buddy. I thank you for your amazing friendship, always being there for me as well. And I want to wish you the best, you and Susan, your family, in the days and years ahead. And I know we'll stay close. Thanks for being a part of the podcast.
You got it, man. I appreciate it. Thanks.
All the best to you,
Have a happy holiday.
You got it. Bye-bye. Thanks, man.
Bye-bye, man.